Netflix's Cleopatra documentary has sparked massive controversy, but things just got a lot worse. Egypt isn't just suing Netflix, they're taking matters into their own hands with their own documentary that exposes the truth about Cleopatra's heritage. But here's the twist, not only did Netflix get Cleopatra's history wrong, but the actress in the documentary also called Egypt racist, and Netflix hasn't said a word. Why would Netflix stay silent on this, and what does this mean for the future of historical documentaries? Stick around because you won't believe how this story ends and why Egypt is setting the record straight once and for all. I wasn't planning on revisiting Netflix's Cleopatra documentary, especially since it was such a disaster from the start, but now things have taken a dramatic turn for the worse, and it's impossible to ignore anymore. As we know, the documentary didn't receive great feedback when it first released, with both critics and viewers expressing their disappointment. The biggest issue was that Netflix made bold, controversial claims about Cleopatra without providing any substantial proof to back them up. What made matters worse is that the documentary completely excluded Egyptians and qualified archaeologists. Instead, it relied on a group of Americans who, rather than offering credible historical insight, essentially rewrote Egypt's history. They didn't consult anyone from Egypt itself, nor did they include voices from Greece, where Cleopatra actually came from, or even Italy, which is relevant when discussing figures like Pompey and Caesar. It was a major oversight in terms of representation and accuracy. Because of these glaring issues, Egypt has now filed a lawsuit against Netflix, which we already knew about. However, the situation has taken a dramatic turn. Egypt is producing its own documentary to set the record straight. Their version is set to present real, verifiable evidence proving that Cleopatra was not black as suggested by the Netflix documentary, but rather of Greek descent, which aligns with the historical facts. Egypt is adamant about preserving their history and culture, and they're fed up with other countries, like the US, misrepresenting their heritage without proper consultation or respect. They want to ensure their narrative is told accurately by experts and those who truly understand the history. So Egypt has taken matters into their own hands and is producing their own documentary to give the world an accurate representation of Cleopatra's legacy. This documentary won't just be about presenting claims, but it will include actual researchers and archaeologists who have first-hand experience working on the excavation of Cleopatra's tomb, as well as many other pharaohs. These are the people who truly understand Egypt's history, not just from a theoretical standpoint, but from hands-on experience in the field. So if anyone truly knows Cleopatra's story, it's the Egyptians themselves and the archaeologists who've been involved in uncovering her tomb. Now, the archaeologists are speaking out and they're not holding back. They've slammed Netflix's portrayal, claiming that everything presented in the documentary is inaccurate. They've pointed out that the historians and experts Netflix relied on were not credible and were spreading misinformation. And it's clear that the accusations are valid, as Netflix failed to provide any real evidence to back up their claims. This entire situation is becoming more problematic with every passing moment. What makes it even worse is the involvement of Jada Pinkett Smith, who is a producer on the Netflix series. She stated that the purpose of the documentary was to highlight the powerful black queens of history. She argued that the stories of these remarkable women often go overlooked and that it bothers her deeply. The irony, however, is that the first season of the series, which was supposed to shine a light on these great black female leaders, doesn't actually feature a black woman in history at all. Instead, it focuses on Cleopatra, who, as we know, was Greek and not black, yet Netflix made the decision to change her ethnicity for the sake of fitting the narrative they were pushing. The documentary aimed to celebrate black female leadership, but by distorting history and presenting Cleopatra as black, they overlooked the real figures who could have been featured, those whose stories are just as important. It's frustrating to see how the intent to preserve and highlight black history has been hijacked to push a false narrative from the start. And the fact that they altered Cleopatra's identity for this series makes it even worse. Instead of amplifying true stories of black queens, Netflix has turned to a famous historical figure and changed her to fit a modern narrative, which feels disingenuous. The real problem is that Netflix completely missed the point of their own documentary. Jada Pinkett Smith claimed the series would highlight the stories of great black female leaders, an admirable goal. But here's the issue: they didn't actually feature a black female leader, which is an admirable goal. But here's the issue: they didn't actually feature a black female leader. Instead, they chose Cleopatra, a well-known historical figure, and completely altered her ethnicity to fit their narrative. And the reasoning behind this? It's clear that Netflix chose Cleopatra because her name is globally recognized, and they figured it would be more profitable to twist her identity than to focus on a real black female leader whose story might not be as widely known. This approach isn't just hypocritical, it's deeply disrespectful. By changing Cleopatra's ethnicity to black, Netflix implied that no actual black female leader in history was worthy of being the focus of their documentary. Instead of celebrating the stories of these women, they chose to distort history because they knew Cleopatra would draw attention. It's a backward move that makes little sense when you really think about it. And it gets worse when you consider Netflix's current situation. The company is already losing millions of subscribers, with people turning to other platforms like Disney and Paramount for better content. Netflix's decision to push out low-quality documentaries like this one while hiking up their subscription fees has only made the situation worse. People are opting out of Netflix subscriptions because they're no longer seeing value in what's offered. On top of that, Netflix is facing a lawsuit from Egypt over the false claims in their Cleopatra documentary. The country is suing for misrepresentation of their history, and based on the evidence, it's unlikely Netflix will win this case. The financial implications of this lawsuit could be disastrous for Netflix. The company has already dug itself into a deep hole by pushing this documentary, and it's hard to see how they're going to recover. They're losing money from dwindling subscriptions, they're dealing with a lawsuit that could cost them millions in legal fees, and they've completely destroyed any remaining credibility they had in the documentary and filmmaking world. It's a bad situation all around, but perhaps the most outrageous part of this entire debacle is that the actress who portrayed Cleopatra in the documentary went on to call the entire country of Egypt racist. That's an even deeper level of irresponsibility, and it just adds fuel to the fire. Netflix's poor decision-making and handling of this situation is only going to make things worse for them. They've truly shot themselves in the foot with this one, and it's hard to imagine how they'll ever recover from this massive PR disaster. Here, Netflix's response or lack thereof is called into question. The actress involved in the Cleopatra documentary made the outrageous claim that Egypt as a country is racist, which only fueled the controversy further. What makes it even more troubling is that Netflix has stayed silent on the matter. The company could have taken a stand, disavowing the actress's comments and publicly stating that they respect Egypt's history and culture. They could have issued a formal apology to Egypt, clarifying that they do not support her controversial statement. However, by not addressing the issue at all, Netflix essentially tacitly endorsed the actress's remarks. This silence is seen as an implicit agreement with her offensive characterization of Egypt, which is incredibly disrespectful. Not only does the actress now appear to be calling Egypt racist, but Netflix's lack of response makes it seem as though they are too. This failure to speak out compounds the company's already tarnished reputation and adds another layer to an already embarrassing situation. The situation continues to spiral for Netflix with no signs of recovery. They're stuck in a hole of their own making, and it seems like there's no easy way out. On the flip side, the fact that Egypt is taking matters into their own hands and producing their own documentary is seen as a victory. It's empowering to see Egypt reclaiming their history and making sure the truth is told using real facts and credible experts, something Netflix failed to do. This move sets a strong example for other nations whose histories have been misrepresented by outside forces, including powerful entities like Netflix. It's encouraging to know that Egypt is standing up for their history, and it's inspiring to see them take control of how their culture is portrayed. The documentary they're making will be based on real evidence, backed by actual archaeologists who've done the hard work of uncovering Cleopatra's tomb and other significant historical sites. This kind of documentary will honor the facts and provide an authentic look into Egypt's past. People should rally behind this effort, especially since it's doing what a documentary should do, documenting reality. It's a call to support content that is rooted in truth, not fictionalized for the sake of ratings or sensationalism. Watching Egypt's documentary will not only be a way to learn about the true history of Cleopatra, but also to support a project that values accuracy over drama. The importance of this move can't be overstated, and it's a win for historical integrity. This explanation continues to explore the issues at hand and how Egypt's proactive response stands in stark contrast to Netflix's missteps. Let me know if you'd like further changes or additions. Unlike Netflix, which seems to have combined Game of Thrones with Egyptian culture and taken liberties with history, this documentary goes as far as race-swapping characters in a way that feels more like a remake of Lord of the Rings than a historical retelling. The issue isn't just about fictional stories or characters, it's about the distortion of actual history and real people who lived. There are statues of Cleopatra depicting her appearance, and yet Netflix's portrayal doesn't align with those historical facts. It's incredibly frustrating to see such an obvious distortion of history for the sake of pushing a narrative that doesn't hold up when examined through a factual lens. One of the most ridiculous aspects of this documentary is its opening line, where the narrator states that there was a time in history when women ruled with unparalleled power. While Cleopatra was indeed a powerful ruler of Egypt, she co-ruled with her brother. She wasn't ruling independently or representing an era where women were the sole dominant figures in history. If we flip the narrative and said there was a time when men ruled with unparalleled power, there would be an uproar. It seems like a clear attempt to create a sensationalized, one-sided narrative that doesn't actually reflect the complexities of history. It's a claim that just doesn't hold up, and it weakens the integrity of the entire documentary. This documentary has been full of controversy and missteps, and I feel it's time to put this topic to rest. I wouldn't recommend watching this documentary as it's filled with inaccuracies, and it's a distorted version of history that does more harm than good. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Do you think Netflix went too far with their version of Cleopatra? Do you agree with Egypt making their own documentary to correct the historical record? Drop your thoughts and let's talk about it. Don't forget to like the video, and if you haven't already, subscribe to Movie Saga for more updates and deep dives into the latest controversies in entertainment. I'll catch you in the next one.